out. Good. Come on. What is happening, everyone, and welcome to today's video. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about how to optimize recovery. And if a lot of you might not know that in June I had surgery on my left knee due to damaged cartilage. So today I'm going to the gym and I'm doing my rehab session for my knee. So I've just got back into training legs, and soon I'll be back on it, lifting heavy and doing my normal stuff for legs. But today I'm going to take you through my session of my rehab session, and I think that goes hand in hand and well with recovery, because I'm doing a recovery process right now. And yeah, I'm essentially just going to be showing you different tips and different advice of what to do, how to optimize recovery. This isn't just going to apply to bodybuilding, it will also apply to like a multitude of sports and a whole different range of activities. So hope you lot enjoy this, and I'm going to do a running commentary. I'm going to do a running commentary over the video, so you lot can, I'll catch you lot in the gym and you'll see what I have to say.
So first of all, I want to talk about the importance of recovery and why I think it is so important to be able to recover from a session. So if you're training to maximal intensity or even sub-max intensity, any method of training that's going to cause muscle damage, you need to make sure you're optimizing recovery, because if you're not doing so, then you're essentially mitigating the amount of hypertrophy that you can gain from it. So if you're actually tearing down your muscles and causing muscle damage, then it makes sense that you need to be able to build them muscles back up. And the two most important things to do this regarding recovery is your sleep and your nutrition. If you're not getting the right amount of protein in after a session, then you're going to completely prevent the maximum amount of hypertrophy that you can gain. So the amount of protein you should be eating a day there's a multitude of variables which will depend on how much protein you should be eating a day. So obviously a larger person should be eating more protein, and this obviously depends on muscle mass, weight, height. There's loads of different factors which will depend on that, but you should be eating around 1.4 times your body weight of protein a day. Again, that depends on your size, your height, your muscle mass, a load of different variables. But obviously you'll change the kilograms to grams when you're measuring in protein. Secondly, I want to talk about sleep and why sleep is so important when recovering. So we're the most anabolic when we sleep, and our ability to recover is at its highest when we are actually sleeping. So it makes sense to be able to get, I'd say for if you're a teenager, because we want to grow and we need to recover the most at this age, I'd say getting around 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And I think it's so important to do that. And you'll find that you're very lethargic when you don't sleep, and if you're going to the gym the following day after you've had a bad night's sleep, you won't perform as well. So again, it makes sense not just from a recovery standpoint, but also from a training standpoint, to get that sleep in, because during this period, if you have a really good sleep schedule and a really good protein intake and overall nutritional intake, then you're going to be able to optimize recovery, and this is basically going to optimize hypertrophy. So this will overall allow the muscle damage that you've caused during the training session or whatever sport it may be, it allows the muscles to rebuild bigger and stronger. And obviously that's what you want when you're training or in your sport. If you want to get stronger or any adaptations that you need to occur, these two things will allow them to occur in the best way possible when you're recovering. Next, I want to talk about stuff you can do following your training session or following your sporting activity. So I like to be realistic about things, and I don't think it's that realistic to be able to have an ice bath after every single session you have. Let's be honest, we're not all going to do that. So I think something that you can implement into your recovery, I was about to say training, but it's not really training, is it? Into your recovery would be, I use a method called hot cold technique. So I'd have a really hot shower for about 1.5 to 2 minutes, and then turn the dial down to really cold, and then repeat that about 3 or 4 times, whatever you feel is necessary. What this is going to do is essentially cause your blood vessels to vasodilate and vasoconstrict, and this is just going to allow blood to be transported into the muscle, and we obviously need oxygen to be able to help facilitate the rebuilding of the muscle that's been damaged. So the most simple bit of advice in this video is just going to be static stretching before you go to sleep. This is not only going to prevent muscle tightness after a session, but it's also going to allow your body to be in a more parasympathetic state, which will also help your sleep, because this is a state of more calmness, and this will allow you to be in a more, it will clear your mind in a way to be able to have a better sleep, as well as helping your muscles become looser and less tight after a session. So they kind of come hand in hand and work well for each other. So because I waffle too much, I've run out of clips from today's leg session, so I'm going to have to quickly add in a couple clips from other sessions. Anyway, the last tip I want to give you guys about recovery is what you're going to do during your training session and during your sets. So the rest time I have after a set is always longer than 2 minutes. And this is because our creatine stores and our creatine levels replenish after 2 minutes. So it makes sense to be able to wait after 2 minutes before restarting the next set. This is because phosphocreatine is the fuel that our muscle uses to be able to exert power or to be able to work, essentially. So this is just going to allow us to maximize the gains we're going to be getting out of our set, because we'll probably get an extra couple reps out when our PT stores are fully replenished. So finally, I want to talk about supplements you can use to help optimize recovery. I feel like these supplements are a bit different to, in the last video I said I wouldn't recommend doing supplements unless you've got all your variables locked down, all your variables perfect. However, I would say multivitamins help so much, not just for recovery, but for general health. Like, it's winter right now, as you all know, and I haven't even touched wood. I haven't sniffed yet with like a bad cold or anything. I haven't even come close to having a bad cold, purely because of these help so much. Plus, if you have a hangover, they have antioxidants in them, which is going to help if you have a hangover, to give you a hangover. So second of all, we have cod liver oil. So this is essentially just going to help with bone health, as you can see there. So as me, with someone who struggles with joint health occasionally, I struggle with little twinges in my joints, and I know I'm very young to be having that, but obviously it happens to the best of us. This helps me feel, it makes my joints feel better after a session, or just in general throughout my on a day-to-day basis. So I think I've said finally about 10 times this video, but anyway, this is really the last thing I want to talk about, or supplement or ergogenic aid that I use to help facilitate my recovery. So it's a massage gun. So it's just essentially, I'm sure you'll have seen this before, I use it for muscle soreness, and I use it after every session on parts of my body that are sore, or before sessions if I feel like I've got a little twiggle, nibble, whatever, I don't even know what you want to call it, but either way, use it for any parts of my body that I feel like I need it on, and it basically just prevents knots in your muscle fibers or any tightness that you may have, to help you recover better. I would say this is quite expensive, so me and my sister share this, so it helps, but it is quite expensive. So if you're going to get one, I wouldn't recommend getting one of the really expensive ones, because they all pretty much do the same job. But yeah, this one it's not sponsored, obviously, but this is the one I got. But yeah.
Alright everyone, that was a big session, big leg day. I'm getting back into it now, so I feel like I'm moving some decent numbers today, considering. I'm about to cool down now, but I'm too tired to film it. But obviously you get the gist of what cool down is. You basically just got to do steady static stretching after, to allow and prevent DOMs the next day. When you're warming up before the session, you essentially want to do stay away from static stretching, because there's been studies which have shown that it reduces your power output. But if you do dynamic stretching and warm up and lubricate the joints, and that will allow for a better session and to prevent injury. So thank you guys for watching today's video. Stay tuned for the next video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.